It's our breaking news, day 2 in the books, and a big proposal now on the table.
Governor Ducey announcing a budget plan that appears on the surface to address many of the demands of Arizona teachers.
But this is far from a done deal, and tonight the teachers union is not budging, saying no bill, no deal. Governor Ducey joining us live in studio right now. Governor, thanks for being with us and taking the time to talk a little bit about your plan here.
Good to be here.
You tweeted out earlier, we have a deal. I want to be clear with what we is. We means you and Republican legislative leadership, correct?
What we means, and I've been meeting with teachers and superintendents, teachers in the Red for Ed movement, understanding what's important to them. But before I could deliver on a commitment, I had to work with legislative leadership so that we could pass it and codify it into law. So we're proud to announce today, and we have announced, is that we've got a 20% pay increase for teachers by 2020. In addition, we've got $100 million in flexible monies for the support staff. That's the counselors, the teachers' aides, the crossing guards, textbooks, other things that are needed. And we're going to be able to increase per pupil spending as well. I needed to work with legislative leadership so we could announce this. We'll work through the rest of the weekend, introduce the budget on Monday, and pass it as soon thereafter, codify these dollars into law ongoing.
Can you explain what the difference is between your initial plan and then now what you're proposing?
What I think the biggest difference between the initial plan is the $100 million in additional dollars for support staff. That is something that we were going to do in the budget the entire time, but we didn't make it part of the announcement. So a lot of teachers said, hey, it's not just about us. There are more people inside the schools. There are educators in addition to the teachers. When they understood that this $100 million was going to be there not only in this next year's budget, but $371 million over the next 5 years, they of course want to see more, and there's other needs, so this isn't perfect, but it's real progress.
Why haven't you involved folks from Red for Ed, the AEA, the AEU? I mean, you've talked with teachers, but they weren't involved in the negotiation of this particular deal. So why not get their input directly and try to meet some of their demands directly?
Well, I am working with teachers and teachers in the Red for Ed movement. I mean, my audience here are the 50,000.
Governor, I got to interrupt you here because when the union leadership said we have a press release, we have a tweet from the governor, we have no bill, we have no deal, the devil is in the details. They would know the details of the plan had you negotiated with them, right? The
details of the plan we have posted out on our website. We have posted it in our press release. I'm here for the teachers, the 50,000 plus public school teachers in our state. You're addressing a union organizer. This is more than one individual. This is the teachers, superintendents, and principals. They're the ones that make it happen inside the schools. I also work with legislative leadership, both Republican and Democrat. I'd expect to get votes from all of them on this because this is a real positive for our teachers. There's a lot of pressure on our parents. They've had to bring their kids to work or find daycare. A lot of these kids get breakfast and lunch at school. What I needed to do was solve this situation. That's what we've done, and that's what we're going to do going forward.
So when you did end up meeting with the teachers, did you learn anything from them, and did that change what you ended up proposing today?
Yeah, I learned a lot from the teachers. Listening to the teachers and understanding not only what's happening inside the school, but the fact that they have a real partnership and collegiality with the other people that they work with. So they didn't want to make it just about them. They wanted to make it about everyone inside the school, and not just the people that make this happen. It's the supplies, it's the textbooks, it's the school buses. And I said, okay, I can do a better job in communicating what the total plan is, but I did want to really address the teacher pay. Teachers are the biggest difference makers in addition to parents inside our states. I brag a lot on the results that we're getting. We're leading the nation in math and reading improvement, but we are going to talk about the entire plan, the support staff, and our teachers, and the dollars that are available that will be codified in this year's budget.
So let's talk about some of these details, because House Speaker J.D. Mesnard was saying it relies on less optimistic budget projections, most of that money coming from our sales tax, more than half of our state budget. What happens if the economy doesn't do so well? Because you're projecting a very rosy economy, maybe not as rosy as the original plan, but still you're you're projecting some economic growth here, and if we hit a recession, does
yes,
that money
if
still
we
there?
have a recession, when we pass this will be permanent, ongoing, and in the base. So these dollars are going to our teachers, and they'll continue to go to our teachers. But over the last 3 years, when I came into this office, we inherited a $1 billion budget deficit. We've been among the fastest growing states in the nation. We've got 200,000 people that have moved here from around the country. We've got 160,000 new private sector jobs. That expands our tax base. On April 11th, we have information that shows that we'll have another $243 million in this fiscal year available because of this growth. The Congressional Budget Office also showed through the tax changes that have been made in Washington that will add another $1.5 billion to our state's economy over the next 5 years. We said we're going to put a plan out there for teachers, but we can make the plan better. This is the commitment to teachers, and a lot of this is new information. When I made that announcement, you know, these press conferences are short. We knew that we could fund this. We knew that we could pass this budget. But I think part of it's been the conversations that we've had with teachers so that they understand that this is responsible and sustainable.
So why is it that lawmakers came out yesterday, for example, and said, I don't know where the money's going to come from. If we knew where the money was, we would pass it in a second?
Well, we had to sit down with lawmakers. Lawmakers are focused oftentimes on issues that are important to them. This issue is important to the entire state, and I said, just like I did in the State of the State, there are some priorities that I'm putting to the side so we can focus on this. This is a real situation that has urgency right now, and I want to address it, and not just in a 1-year budget, but in a 3-year budget.
You've talked about doing this without tax cuts or without tax raises, so what might get cut then? Because a lot of lawmakers have floated a lot of things that don't sit well with people, veterans programs, social service programs,
those aren't going to be cut. Those aren't going to be cut. We're in a growing state. Just like when you have a growing business, the amount of money in your general fund in your checking account grows. We've been able to add $450 million to our rainy day fund since we've come out of this deep recession. We have a lot of dollars available in the state. The issue on the table is teacher pay, K-12 education, and support staff, and that's what we're addressing.
Does money come out of the rainy day fund?
There's not going to be money coming out of the rainy day fund. I just want people to know that we have a significant amount in our rainy day fund, and that didn't happen by accident. That's been good, responsible budgeting.
Lawmakers adjourned yesterday, and teachers weren't very happy about it. They saw it sort of as a slap in the face. And I know that lawmakers didn't have a bill to vote on either, but was it a mistake just optically to send lawmakers home and not keep them here when you've got 50,000 teachers outside on the Capitol lawn?
Well, I respect my separate and co-equal branch, and they may have adjourned, but they didn't go home. A lot of them were up in the governor's office talking about this budget. So if they have business on the floor, that's one thing. They can conduct that business. I know that the optics and the way they were reported, and I saw that as well. But many of them were up on the 9th floor late into the evening last night.
Are you dismayed with some of the things that lawmakers have said in the last few days? Teachers have been accused of trying to indoctrinate children into socialism. They've been accused of just trying to make themselves relevant. People have said they're greedy. And some of the folks who are saying these things are Republican lawmakers, people from your own party, some of them even legislative leadership. Are you disappointed in that?
I'm going to be responsible for what I say, and I value our teachers. Our teachers have earned this raise. They deserve it. I don't think that type of rhetoric at this time is productive at all. There is a situation in our K-12 education system. As the Chief Executive Officer of the state, I wanted to bring a solution. I want to bring people together on this. This is what we do, is we have over 1 million kids in our K-12 public education system, over 50,000 teachers. We want to reward them and respect them and say that we value them with this raise and what we do ongoing.
Do you concede that there are trust issues here, though? Because we're seeing statements like that from teachers out there. We just don't trust this at this point because we've heard so many things and we still don't have it in black and white with all the details we can go over.
Well, I would say that it is in black and white in terms of the deal points that we are going to pass in the budget, but I realize that we have to codify it into law. Once we do it, like I said, it's permanent, ongoing, and in the base. and inflated, and those dollars are directed to teachers and to support staff.
And so that leads to my question, how quickly can you get this passed? You have a lot of parents at home who are worried about whether their kids are even going to go to school on Monday.
Well, I'm ready to sign it tonight. Of course, we want to make sure that all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. We're going to work with the legislature to do it. It will be introduced on Monday, and typically it takes a day or 2 or 3, but the commitment is there. And I think when people have that commitment of a 20% raise, the question is, does a strike still make sense? Does that make sense to parents? Does that make sense to the kids inside the classrooms? Many graduations are coming up, military deployments, people leaving for their missions. I want to help take the pressure off the parents. I want to get our teachers doing what they do best, which is teach inside the classroom. So we're going to do what we need to do down at the state capitol, but the specifics are out there.
So what are you planning to do, anything this weekend, in order to make sure that they don't strike on Monday?
Well, we're working with superintendents. Superintendents said to us that if you can show us a plan that we can put in front of teachers, we can prevent or avoid this strike or get them back in. So I'm going to leave it to the superintendents, that the teachers report to and work with the principals and superintendents. But we want to do our part in terms of answering this issue from a dollar commitment to K-12 education ongoing.
And are you hearing positive things from those superintendents based on this plan? Do you have their support?
We have their support. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback. We've gotten a lot of criticism as well, and I understand that. I would have liked to resolve this earlier. We announced the plan on April 12th, but it's taken the events that have happened to get others to hear and see what I've been able to see, but I'm confident that we've got this going forward. That's why I'm here. That's why we've been able to put out the joint announcement, not only from the governor, but from the Senate President and the Speaker of the House.
Certainly this plan doesn't meet all of the demands that have been aired by Red for Ed and the teachers that are behind it. Are you still expecting then that it will satisfy them?
Well, I don't know that satisfy is the word that I would use, but I think, like I said, when you talk about a 20% pay increase, $100 million in additional dollars, per pupil spending going up, this idea of restoring to a certain level of spending in K-12, the best way to get there is to put significant dollars in. And in addition, you know, we put $1.7 billion in new money into K-12 education over the last 3 years. We were able to pass Proposition 123, and in this session we extended Proposition 301, which brings certainty into K-12 education for the next 20 years. So there's always going to be more to do, but I feel like with this budget agreement, we've done a lot in this session to address this issue.
There are a lot of people that would say you have been sort of nudged into this by some other factors. Prop 123 was the settlement of a lawsuit. This latest plan came with a looming teacher strike ahead of you. How do you convince people that you're really an education governor?
Well, we've been talking about education since day one, and I'm not looking to convince people about anything about myself as governor. I'm looking to answer the question of our teachers, our principals, and our superintendents, and our parents. We've been focused on this. The downturn in Arizona was very difficult on our state budget. We took that first year and were able to structurally balance a budget that had a $1 billion deficit. We've been responsible in how we've grown that budget. It's put us in a position where we have extra surplus dollars and a booming economy, and we're directing these dollars to teachers, and we're not just talking about it, we're putting it ongoing in the base and codifying it in law.
People that have been here for a long time, though, would point to back in about 2007, 2006 or so, Governor Napolitano had a surplus budget and wanted to do all their kindergarten. A couple of years later, the recession hits and you wind up with a $1 billion shortfall. These funds and these projections can fluctuate wildly. How do you know that they're stable?
We've got a spreadsheet that shows our budget and budget projections versus those years. You'll see ours are about half of the projections. They're very sustainable and very responsible and very doable. You never know what's going to happen in the economy. That's why you put money in the rainy day fund. That's why you're specific in what you increase. This is necessary and needed in our state. Like I said, our teachers have earned these raises. They deserve it. We have the dollars available. We need to answer this question for them.
To Steve's point, if you don't know, and of course no one can know the future, for sure. Why did you agree to do a 20% raise for these teachers over 3 years when other states such as West Virginia as well as Oklahoma, they ended their strikes in those states with just a 5% raise for educators?
Well, number one, Arizona's in a different position than Oklahoma or West Virginia. We've had 200,000 people move here in the last 36 months. We've got 160,000 new private sector jobs. That gives us a growing tax base. We also, you can think of it as a 20% raise, but if you want to think of it as how do you get that done, this year it'll be 9% plus the one that was already committed, 5% the following year, and then by the time teachers show up in the fall of 2020, another 5%. That's how we get to 20, but what we didn't want to do is just address one single budget. We wanted to show a plan for our teachers and support staff ongoing.
When we talk about predicting the future, though, we're talking about 2 years into the future, and there's an election year. You are running for re-election, but we've also got all kinds of lawmakers. How do you possibly predict what the legislature and the governor will do 2 years from now? Obviously, if you were the governor, you'll stay on the plan, but what happens if the legislative makeup changes?
Well, listen, I don't want to talk politics. The campaign seasons are long enough. The legislature's still in session. We want to pass this budget and get those teacher raises. The commitment that I'm making, the only budget I'm going to sign this year is the 3-year budget that has the 10% raise for this year, and I will veto any budget that doesn't have the ongoing raises going forward. That's the commitment I'm making.
Governor, you can look at our screen here and you can see all the people who, well, now we have it gone, but there it is, all the people who were out there for the past 2 days, estimated in the tens of thousands. What kind of impact did that make on you, and did it change anything when it comes to what you were willing to give?
I don't think it changed anything, because I've wanted to address this teacher pay issue for some time. I think K-12 education is among the most important things, along with public safety, that we do at the state level, but I do think it was impressive. I think it helped others that might not have had the same sense of urgency that I had, because I've got to bring others along. I mean, that's the definition of a leader. You have to have some followers, and I needed this legislature to see this as clearly as I saw it. We've got some good people in both our parties, urban and rural, but to understand the urgency on this. And when you're around legislators a lot, when you're in public schools often, I understood this. Now we're going to be able to address this in law and in our budget. And I'm looking forward to doing that.
At the same time, in the last 3.5 years, you've signed 2 expansions of the private school voucher program, and public educators say that bleeds money away from public education. Why is it in this state that we have a system of competing schools and different schools? It would seem to violate our own Constitution, which says schools should be uniform across the board. And yet we send money to private schools, we send money to charter schools, and we send money to district schools, all of them very differently.
Yes, I think you have to understand the total state budget, and I think you also have to understand that, well, one, I believe in school choice, and so have the people that have come before me, and the results have really shown that Arizona schools are improving in math and reading faster than any other schools in the country, and that's both our public districts and our public charters. So this has been part of the reform effort that's happened across the country. Arizona does much of this well. It mostly has been resources that have been the issue. Now we can bring resources to these institutions that are really getting the job done in the classroom. It's the teachers that make the difference. But the idea of a parent having options so that their child can have access to an excellent public education, I think is a good thing.
Governor Ducey, thanks for being with us. We will certainly look for the details in that bill, expected to be introduced on Monday. Is that correct?
Yes, the budget will be introduced on Monday.
Okay.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.